Now, President Bola Tinubu assigned portfolios to ministers last week, and they were sworn in on Monday. All eyes are on them to deliver the renewed hope mandate of the president. Now, the president had previously stated that Nigerians want quick and fast solutions. He also made it clear that nobody should pity him as he asked for this job and has no excuse but to deliver. Welcome to Standpoint. I'm Ibrahim Shita. From the splitting of ministries and creation of some, it's obvious that increasing revenue is the president's target, which is very good, you must say. But then Nigeria currently has a debt profile of 49.85 trillion naira. No doubt, we need to improve our revenue to undertake some key infrastructure projects and some other things that needed to be brought on board by the president to ensure that this administration deliver on the mandate that the people who has ensured that the incumbent party won the election. So for many Nigerians, the new minister must hit the ground running, not expecting them to spend the next 6 months brainstorming. Then they are also not interested in hearing fairy tales as they want to see quick results. We'll talk about so many things and other expectations from the ministerial appointment that we witnessed in this recent days, where we have new ministers who have been sworn in by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So we'll be speaking on the program with a political analyst, Ibrahim Garba, who will be joining us later on the show. And then talking to us now would be the Director General, Citizens Campaign Council, Japhet Ogbueri. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ogbueri.
The pleasure is all mine from here in Abuja.
Now I can see that a lot of Nigerians really look like they are not willing to wait. But then, weeks after the screening and confirmation, President Tinubu, who now made the ministers made them swear oath of allegiance and then ensure that they have a lot of things to do. What are your thoughts on efforts by some of the ministers to hit the ground running as expected by Nigerians?
All right. It is a welcome development, especially coming now that the ministers have been given the go-ahead order to kickstart the administration running. The ministries are the engine house, whereby the projects, policies, and programs of government are implemented. Now, for example, there must be proper articulation of the policies and established mandate of the ministries before any program or project can be implemented. The ministers have to first of all understudy the established mandate of their ministries. I just want to give you an example of what just happened. During the formal administration of the President Ogbueri, the former Minister of Education came on air and actually told Nigerians that before he was appointed a Minister of Education, he knew nothing about the ministry. That means it took him more than 4 years to learn. That is why the ministry was almost not almost in existence. You understand, throughout the 8 years tenure of Mr. President. Now I am actually advocating and advising the honorable ministers who have been selected to make sure they understand the mandate of their ministry. It is very, very, very essential. The major problems we have in this country is lack of proper articulation of the underlying principles and mandates of the ministries. That is why we have very poor perceptions of the problem we face. That is why after 4 years, 8 years, the majority of the ministries end up achieving nothing. And who is to be blamed? The honorable ministers, for crying out loud, because that's the bulk rests on their table. Now, for example, also, I think there was something I actually found out, which of course is a bit worrisome. I've actually seen that majority of the projects they call constituency projects from the National Assembly members are domiciled in the ministry. That means the ministry do not even have most of their own projects to execute. They end up executing projects tagged constituency projects, which leads to duplication of projects, which gives room for falsification of projects, which gives room to corruption. So it is very, very essential for these ministries to be able to understand what they are supposed to do. You understand?
Right.
So that's exactly what we are crying out loud.
Right. So you are concerned.
Who are working should keep the ground running first of all by understanding the mandate they are sitting upon. There are ministries that are supposed to, you understand, fast track, developmental projects of government. And when you look at the Ministry of Works, the 98% of federal projects in the South East have been abandoned. Let's take an ample example. Port Harcourt Enugu Expressway, which of course it has gone very far, but from the Aba section to Port Harcourt section, it is the worst road on this planet Earth. When you look at the other section from Enugu, that is from the Obola from Soka to the section that leads to the Benue State, Amba, Otuba, thereabout, that road is impassable. Those are the priority areas the ministers must look upon. I just watched yesterday the Honorable Minister of Works. He went to the section, the Abuja Kaduna section of the road, which of course, I think from what I heard yesterday was just 20% completed. So those are priority projects. If the infrastructures are not working, poverty will continue to remain. There is a correlation between the nation's development as well as infrastructural development with the human development. There is correlated. So the more developed the infrastructures are, it shows that the more developed the nations will be, and that is going to be the more developed the people will be. So if we don't have infrastructures that are functioning in this nation, the nation cannot be categorized as a developing nation. It is going to directly affect the people also.
Absolutely. Mr. Ogbueri, allow me to butt in. Allow me to butt in. I can see that because we're going to look at the brass tacks, for this.
Be a bit louder. I'm not hearing you much.
Okay, can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
Right. I'm saying that we'll look at we'll get to the brass tacks, of these different ministerial appointment offices that are being, allotted by the president to the various ministers. But then, are you not concerned because the president actually said during the inauguration that, the ministers need to prioritize interest and shun regional and primordial considerations. And we know that when people are given appointments in this country, or if they are able to win elective positions, you have their people who will be saying, listen, this is our own time. It's a time for us to enjoy. It's a time for us to marry. How do you think it's possible for them, considering that burden that they might be facing from their own constituents, that might mitigate against their own ability to deliver?
If I actually got what you just said very right, I think it's going to be it's a problem on the side of those who have been appointed. We actually look at appointments as a kind of compensation for political endeavors or political inputs someone has made. That is number one. When you look at the other side of it also, practically we have more poor persons in the society in Nigeria than those who are actually above the middle class. And the average Nigerian actually lives much on the circular nature of expectation. That means every man, every woman appointed in government, we expect a lot from them. We used to have something called Stonework infrastructure. I think that was one of the mantras that were deduced in the previous administrations. But it is not supposed to be so. Where the local government councils are functioning, where the state governments are functioning, there are going to be less pressure on the federal government to execute projects. I actually blame much of these things on the ineffectiveness, ineptitude of the local government administration. They receive volumes of amount of money on a monthly basis as local government allocations, but they end up doing nothing with it. If every man comes from a local government area, everybody mounting pressure and demanding something from the ministers come from a local government area. So if the pressures are reduced at the level of the local government areas, if the pressures are reduced at the level of the state government areas, you find that there will be little pressures at the level of the federal government. the minister will not feel much, pressure, because everybody coming from his constituency, first of all, comes from a local government area. The ministers must not see their appointment as a kind of compensation because they had only one vote. They voted once, only one vote they had. Every other Nigeria, including me and you, voted once. Unless you voted twice, that means you are liable to be actually prosecuted for multiple voting. In as much as those ministers had just one vote, just like me and you, there is no much expectation attached to it. What Nigeria needs is delivery. What Nigeria needs is moving this government forward. The government came up, the President President Bola Tinubu, whom was accepted by Nigerian masses on a popular mandate, came out with a policy thrust of his government named renewed mandate. Within the enclave of the renewed mandate lies infrastructural development, lies poverty alleviation, lies completion of projects. You understand? And it is only these ministries that can be able to effectively implement these things. So the ministers must sit up and don't think that that office given to them is for them to either aggrandize themselves or actually to look or actually carry along their constituencies as the case may be. Just if I had you right anyway. Right. So that is what I'm looking at. The ministries or the ministers per se are not a kind of agents to carry people along. No.
Okay. Yeah. Your point is made. Your point is made regarding that, and we need to raise.
Nigerians very wrong impression that there is too much money in the system, especially among the ministries. So I may not blame those Nigerians or those constituents who may be mounting pressures on them to get something from them. You understand?
I can see how passionate. Sorry, Mr. Ogbueri, allow me to jump in. Can you hear me? Okay. I can see how passionate you are about this administration being able to deliver on the dividends of democracy. Let's take this one after the other. For instance, let's start from a very sacrosanct ministry, which is the Ministry of Finance. With debt overhang of over dozens of trillion, an employment rate of 33%, an inflation rate of 24.08%, and an unstable and weak naira. How would you describe the task ahead of the Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun? Do you feel that he's definitely going to come under pressure to do something about the weakening naira? Mr. Ogbueri, can you hear me? All right. Looks like we're having a bit of connectivity issue with Mr. Ogbueri. We'll try to do that as soon as we can to continue this conversation, very important conversation. But in the meantime, let's bring you a report on the swearing in of the incumbent ministers that we have now in Nigeria.
The ministers take the oath of office by pledging allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. These ministers will execute and implement the plans, programs and policies of President Bola Tinubu's administration. With their portfolios assigned to them, they have their jobs cut out already. President Tinubu sees this inauguration as a major step in the life of his administration towards the actualization of his renewed hope agenda. He says the new ministers must work to promote national interest without ethnic, sectional or religious sentiments.
With such high honor comes tremendous responsibility. In this moment of abundant promise and peril in equal measure, all of you who have been sworn in have been called to distinguish yourself. Minister of Federal Republic you are, not minister of a region or minister of a particular state.
Now the ball has been set rolling. These men and women, 45 of them, now members of the Federal Executive Council, will resume at their desk in the various ministries to drive the vehicle of governance. President Tinubu has told them that the challenges that lie ahead are daunting, but there is a silver lining as they begin to implement long overdue reforms to transform the economy and bring peace and prosperity to the people.
My portfolio has been a shocker to most people. It has been the major upset of the entire cabinet portfolio assignment. However, it's been deliberate. It's deliberate because whoever has an analytical mind will know that the hydrocarbon world, the world is moving away from hydrocarbon. Oil is even on the downward trend in global economy. You now have electric cars, you have gas, you have alternative fossil fuel and all of that. So the world is moving away gradually from oil. So solid minerals is the next growth factor of the Nigeria's economy.
Nigerians are watching, Nigerians are waiting. It's time for true service accountability, and we believe that by the grace of Almighty God and the support of Mr. President, we will be out there on the road 24 hours every single day to ensure that millions of Nigerians are elevated from poverty while we attend to humanitarian needs across board.
And I think all the expectations have been put into words by the President during the inauguration. So it's left for us to roll up our sleeves as ministers in his cabinet to ensure that the renewed hope agenda finds a strong footing.
I'm glad the President also included food security as part of agriculture. That's to say, to secure the food that the country needs. Not only that we have export potentials, but I believe that we can feed the country adequately and also export whatever that is left. So we should be able to achieve our target.
The first Federal Executive Council meeting is expected to be convened in the coming days. And just like President Tinubu, Nigerians have high hopes and expectations from the ministers as they carry on their newly assigned tasks. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
Interesting stuff. We've been talking about the ministerial appointments and the tasks ahead of them. And I've been speaking with the Director General, Citizens Campaign Council, Ogbueri. Let me confirm whether you're back there, if you can hear me now.
I'm here with you.
Right, interesting. So I was trying to find out your thoughts as regards the challenges that we are facing in the country, talking about the task ahead of Mr. Wale Edunda as the Minister of Finance. Because I was saying that we've got debt overhang of over dozens of trillion, employment rate of 33%, and inflation rate well over 24%, and an unstable and weak naira. So do you feel that the minister will be under severe pressure to do something about the weakening naira?
Is strictly an economic, you understand, an economic kind of ministry, which of course does more on financial regulations. But personally, what I understand most is that the value of a currency of a nation determines the equilibrium of the economy of such a nation. There is no way the naira will be as much as 890 naira to a dollar, and you expect the prices of goods and services, you understand, to be very much minimal. The dollar price determines almost every other thing, economic-wise, prices, even the developmental process of this nation. So the task for Honorable Minister of Finance is very simple. Most fundamentally, he must reach out to the Honorable the CBN governor to sit down first of all to understand the dynamics that makes Nigerian naira so unstable against the dollar and the other foreign exchange. We have come to a stage in this nation whereby pragmatic approaches should be used to tackle every other problem bedeviling this nation. As far as the foreign exchange remains very high, it is very, very impossible for Nigerians not to remain in poverty. Prices of goods and services have skyrocketed. So the first and foremost function of the Honorable Minister of Finance is to map out strategies on how to make sure that Naira and dollar, if they are not equal, there should be very little difference between Naira and dollar. For example, there was a kind of redenomination policy that was brought in by the former CBN governor, I think, Professor Charles Soludo. They were looking at the process whereby the Naira will be redenominated, you understand, to actually have a value that is closer to the dollar. If the Honorable Minister is very genuine in his job, that is his first function. He must promulgate a policy that will make Naira near dollar. The dollar should not be more than 50 Naira per dollar. Until that is done, it is going to be a very Herculean tax for him to actually achieve these indices you have actually said. You understand?
Right.
He must.
Right. So yeah, it's much more.
Herculean tax for him to actually achieve the aim. He has to sit down with the CBN government with dollar.
Correct. So
Nigeria does not have much money in foreign reserves. Most of we don't even transact much on dollars, if not on the political circles. We won't even import much. We don't even, apart from petroleum products, Nigeria don't import much. The food you eat actually is produced in Nigeria. Most of the food you eat are produced. A lot of the ones want to actually luxuriate. Most of what we eat are produced in this country, and that is the major side that concerns Nigerian citizenry. The cars, the other ones are just luxurious, goods and services that can be taxed. So if the Honorable Minister is very genuine, if you actually want to kick the ground running, the first thing first is to make sure there is a plan, there is a policy or a program that will make sure that Nigerian Naira is near in value to the dollar and to the pounds and to the to the Dutch mark and the rest of those foreign currencies. That is where we know that is very serious. Until that is done, I will not even take them serious.
Well, that's that. You've also described it, Mr. Ogbueri. You've also described it as Herculean task, and of course, Nigerians know that these tasks before the ministers are not something that they can easily just get into and assume it's just going to work that way without having proper plan. But then, Mr. Idun will also face the additional responsibility of coordinating the economic activities of other ministries, because it's not just the Ministry of Finance alone. And you also need to ensure adequate synergy among departments and agencies of government. What sort of framework or policy coordination do you think it needs to have at the back of his mind?
We have taken time to see how most of the countries in Africa are doing. Those whose currencies are at par with the foreign currencies are suffering. Those whose currencies are closer in value to the foreign currencies are actually seem to be better. Every country determines its economic policies. We will not allow International Monetary Fund, we will not allow World Bank to decide what we should do with our own financial policies. We must have our own elementary financial policies that must be different from what they expect from us. We have been submerged under the World Bank policy, under the valuation policy of International Monetary Fund, yet they have not yielded any fruit. Right now, we need to localize our economic policies to actually suit what Nigeria yearns. Enough of those stories. Whatever the yardsticks and those there are things they always put up a kind of hiccups for the country to actually where we even need them is when we are borrowing. With all due respect, Nigeria has all it takes to develop itself. We don't need to borrow outside. I am telling you categorically, some individuals in this country can give us 1 trillion naira to actually develop. If we bring 7 individuals in this country, 7 rich men that can give us 7 trillion naira, we don't even need to borrow. We can borrow internally. If we can source funds internally, then we may not need external influence to determine how our naira fares. This is what has to do us. It's our own personal. It's something that has to be personal to us as Nigerians. It has to do with us. We did not fare well with the international policies of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund and the rest of such unilateral and multilateral agencies that actually, hampered our development. Absolutely. It is for us to look inward to find our development. As the Bible said, every nation, every man must look for his own way of salvation. It is time to salvage Naira. Naira represents the
your
total value of this nation.
your point is
Our
made.
strength as a nation is tied to our Naira. When dollar was equivalent to Naira, if Nigeria was actually developing at the same pace with China, India, and the rest of such.
Yeah,
If you check
Mr. Ogbueri, Mr. Ogbueri, because of our time, I think it's a very convenient place for us to, to leave the conversation. You've actually touched on a lot of things, and I know that if we have more time, there will be much and much more that you want to also talk about. But because of our time, we need to let you go. Director General, Citizens Campaign Council, Japhet Ogbueri, thank you so much for your keenness of insight on this issue.
Before you close, there's something I actually want to input. Please, can you give me...
Right. Mr. Ogbueri, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your insight on this very important topic.